It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of April 12th, 2002. We got 3 films to look at today, so let's just go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend. That's Ben Affleck and Samuel L. Jackson in the thriller Changing Lanes. So Ben Affleck plays a successful young Wall Street lawyer who accidentally crashes his car into a vehicle driven by a middle-aged, recovering alcoholic insurance salesman played by Samuel L. Jackson. After the lawyer leaves the scene of the accident, basically telling Samuel L. Jackson, better luck next time, the two men try to get back at each other, engaging in a variety of immoral and illegal actions that end up having a major impact on each man's life. Think of this as one of those Will Ferrell comedies he made back in the mid-2000s, except it's much more serious, and there's a really good chance that one or both of these guys will easily get killed in this situation, because, man, this is one of the best thrillers that nobody probably really knows about. This is directed by Roger Mitchell, the same guy who did Notting Hill, which was a far different movie than Changing Lanes. That's a romantic comedy, but I like that it shows his range as a director. It's not just him doing one specific genre. He can do multiple genres, and this film really does keep you on the edge of your seat because you see the consequences of these particular actions that happens in this movie with Ben Affleck and Samuel L. Jackson, and how they basically try to screw each other over, only realizing that they're both kind of screwed in their own ways. And you got a phenomenal cast in this as well, not just the two of them, but also Toni Collette, Sidney Pollack, William Hurt, Amanda Peet. I mean, it's a movie that you are literally on the edge of your seat because you have no idea how this is going to end, how this is going to end up becoming for both of them, because the film does a very good job of keeping the tension high, because you really don't know what's going to happen when it's all said and done, which kind of affects the film's ending a little bit. I thought the ending was a little bit anticlimactic. In fact, that was one of the major complaints that a lot of people had with the movie. Everyone thought the movie was great, except they thought that the ending was a little bit too convoluted and a little bit too cliched. But yeah, it's definitely the weakest part of the movie, which is a shame, but then again, it doesn't hurt the overall ebb and flow of the movie. Like, it's not bad, it's not the worst thing ever, but it's definitely not as good as what they were setting up beforehand. They were setting up something really, really interesting, and you really didn't know what was going to happen at the end, and then they just kind of back off on it a little bit here. It's not the best ending that they could have had for this, honestly. But it shouldn't really take away from the overall enjoyment of the movie. I do like watching Ben Affleck and Samuel L. Jackson working off each other, and like all the different ways they screw each other over, and you really do feel for both sides of their arguments. Like, there's no real bad guys here. It's just a big misunderstanding that they have, and you feel when somebody faces the consequences of their actions, and it's very well done stuff. It's a very solid film. If the ending had been a little bit better, this probably would have been one of the best movies of the year. In fact, in some ways, many people consider it kind of what Crash did 3 years later, except it's just centering on two different people here. And I could definitely see the differences between Changing Lanes and Crash in this situation. But if I had to pick the two, I'd probably say this is the better film, even though I think Crash is a very good film. I'm one of those few people that, everybody was kind of upset that Crash won Best Picture that year, but I like that movie enough. But I thought it kind of got screwed over Brokeback Mountain, though. I will agree with that. Like, Brokeback Mountain did get kind of screwed by Crash winning Best Picture. I mean, I like the movie, but I don't think it was Best Picture worthy. I mean, but that's for another day and time. But Changing Lanes, really good movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's definitely worth a watch. So speaking of movies that you really do not see coming, see if you can look at what this next movie I'm going to talk about here, The Sweetest Thing. So, okay, on paper, that trailer kind of looks like your typical romantic comedy, but if you actually watch the movie, you realize that this is not that type of romantic comedy. And we'll talk about that in just a second here, but the plot of this movie is that you have Cameron Diaz as this woman who spends years avoiding men, suddenly meets her perfect match while hanging with her best friends, and when she finds out that he's left town, she and her best friend, played by Christina Applegate, set out on a trip to find him. And the guy is played by Thomas Jane. Their third best friend is played by Selma Blair. You also have Jason Bateman. Parker Posey's in here as well. This is one of those movies where it doesn't sell you on what the movie actually is. It looks like a generic romantic comedy, but no, it's a romantic comedy that's trying to be for the same target audience as something like American Pie or something like The Hangover. Like, it's trying to sell itself as this raunchy comedy, and let's just say their attempts at trying to sell it as a raunchy comedy are not very, very good. I mean, this is a movie that I was kind of looking forward to when it came out. I never got around to seeing it until almost 10 years later, and when I finally saw it, I was just like, what the hell was that? I mean, like Cameron Diaz, Christina Applegate, Selma Blair, Thomas Jane, Jason Bateman, Parker Posey, all terrific actors, all terrific comedic actors. I've seen them in a lot of good stuff where they're very, very funny. But this is a movie that I really don't know what the hell the point of it was trying to be. Like, what were they trying to do here? It can't decide on what if it wants to be a straightforward romantic comedy or a raunchy comedy on the same level as American Pie. There are scenes in this movie that are just like really, really bizarre. Like, there's one scene in particular where the three best friends, Diaz, Applegate, and Blair, they're at this restaurant, and they start singing about a song called "You're Too Big to Fit in Here." It's called the Penis Song, and the entire restaurant starts singing the song, and it's just like, I don't get it. Like, if you set the tone a little bit earlier, maybe I would have figured out what you were trying to do, but the trailers for this even don't know what the hell they're trying to sell you on. Like, it doesn't give you much of the raunchy aspects except for a couple little scenes here and there, like the scene in the car, and then there's a scene where they're throwing some disgusting food out the window, and you think maybe someone pooped inside of it or something like that, and then it's the car and all that. But like, this movie never figures out what the hell it wants to be, and it really stumbles right from the beginning all the way down to the very end of the movie. I mean, there's a part in the movie where Selma Blair, something happens where she gets into this weird situation with her boyfriend, where something gets stuck on the boyfriend, and I can't remember if it was the boyfriend or something, like, basically it's a sexual situation where a boyfriend and the emergency crew has to be called in, and it's a really odd scene because it just comes out of nowhere. It doesn't serve any purpose to the storyline. It just feels like it's there to just be there for the sake of being raunchy. It really does feel like a film that has no idea who it's supposed to be for. Is it supposed to be for the guys? Is it supposed to be for the girls? Is it supposed to be... It's supposed to be one of those movies it really doesn't know which direction it wants to go. And I think because they don't have a tone for this, it ruins the ebb and flow of the movie in a lot of different ways. And even with the people they have involved here, there's a lot of talented people in this. They can't save this movie in particular from really going anywhere. And this writer is not a bad writer. Nancy Pimentel's the writer of this. And she actually based this off of her relationship with Kate Walsh, who we know from Grey's Anatomy. And she's written a lot of stuff. Like, she wrote episodes of South Park. She wrote episodes of Shameless. She wrote The Mick. You know, she was one of the people on Win Ben Stein's Money. She even said that this movie has been described as kind of the forefront of stuff like Bridesmaids and Girls Trip, which... Bridesmaids and Girls Trips were much better movies in particular because they at least knew what they were trying to do and who they were targeting. But this is a movie that just feels like it's all over the place, and it doesn't know who it wants to be appealed to more. Does it want to appeal to the women watching this or the guys? Like, it can't really decide on which one it tries to do, and it tries to mesh them together, and it just doesn't work. It's no wonder why they keep talking about in the trailer, if you love There's Something About Mary and My Best Friend's Wedding, then you're going to love this. It's just like two different movies, two different tones, and yeah. This is what happens when you try to put them together. And The Sweetest Thing is anything but sweet. It's not anything, pretty much. It's just a dull movie with not a lot of laughs, a waste of really good talent, and an idea that they have no idea who they're trying to appeal this to, and it just stings in the long run when it's all said and done. So, yeah. So that's The Sweetest Thing. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is, last film actually, Bill Paxton and Matthew McConaughey in a film directed by Bill Paxton, Frailty. In Frailty, you have Matthew McConaughey and Bill Paxton as two brothers who have a very strange relationship between them and their father, played by Powers Booth, who believes that he has been commanded by God to kill demons disguised as people. And what you get is a very interesting psychological horror thriller, and it shows that Bill Paxton has a lot of potential as a director. I think I don't know if this is the only thing he's ever directed. Let me see. I'm kind of curious now. So let me see for a second here. Yeah, I think this is the only thing he's ever directed, because I don't see any other movies besides this one. But, Yeah, it's a very intense movie. It reminds me a lot of, like, Sterling Echoes or Arlington Road from a couple years prior. It's one of those little underrated gems that not a lot of people really knew about. And actually, for Lionsgate, they actually put the most money into this an in-house project, because this was like an $11 million movie. Remember, Lionsgate started off as a very small independent company before it eventually became the Lionsgate that we know of today, like the company that gave us Saw and the Hunger Games, John Wick, Expendables, yada yada yada. But much different time compared to now. But it's a really good movie. It's a very creepy film. It's very tension filled. It's very odd and very weird. It features two really solid performances from Bill Paxton and Matthew McConaughey. Powers Booth's also very good in the film as well. And it does keep you on the edge of your seat. It's a very intense thriller, and one that, sadly, I don't think gets the proper respect it deserves. It's a really good film, and like I said, it shows what Bill Paxton can do as a director overall. It's a really good movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, because it is definitely worth it. Frailty, highly recommended. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. And the next time we meet, we'll take a look at 3 more movies, including the spin-off of The Mummy Returns starring The Rock, The Scorpion King, Sandra Bullock in the psychological thriller Murder by Numbers, and a little comedy that you might not have heard of before. It's a little film called My Big Frat Week Wedding, which actually opened up this weekend and would eventually go on to have a significant following, as we're going to delve into when we get to that one on the next episode. We'll actually also take look at another one here, Space Station 3D, which is one of the IMAX films. We'll take a look at that as well. So 4 films to look at next time around. We'll delve into all of those on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.